Hello everyone! This week I want to show you the American Airpower Museum in East Farmingdale, Long Island. The museum was established in 1998 and it is located on a former site of the Republic Aviation, today Republic Airport. Now, I do not want to get into the history of this airport, as in the beginning of aviation, Long Island was at the heart of airplane development and flight, and hence was, and still is, the home to many small airports. Although most people are just familiar with John F. Kennedy International Airport and LaGuardia Airport, there is more, lots more. And if you give me time on this channel, I will certainly take you through the history and these locations, including the Republic Airport, in a lot more details. But just a very brief background. The story of this place as a field for airplanes began in the 1920s. And in 1939, it all came under the Republic Aviation, an aircraft manufacturer which produced over 20,000 aircraft, some of which you will see in this video. Republic Aviation was acquired by Fairchild-Hiller Corporation in 1965, and about a year later, the airport became a general aviation airport. In 1987, the company closed its doors and some of the property was sold. For instance, the nearby Airport Plaza, a shopping center, was built on that land in the early 2000s. But what I love about the shopping center is it pays tribute to the history that used to be there of aircraft production and an airport. Check this out. They made the design so that it looks like an airport traffic control tower with a plane in the middle of the clock. I mean, you can agree or disagree with me, but I think it's a smart and a pretty cool design. Okay, but in this video, I want to specifically focus on the American Airpower Museum, which uses one of the hangars at the airport. Now, it's one hangar and a little bit of an area outside, but believe me, this place is packed with items that you can spend hours looking at. It's actually quite impressive just how much stuff is compiled here. Before we begin, two things. First, if you want to film in a place like this, and then let's say put it on YouTube like I am doing, you need to get permission first. Second, I will just show you some of the things you will find here, but like with many of my videos, these are not carefully researched documentaries or one of my lectures in college or anything like that, but just a light, hopefully educational, hopefully entertaining, short video about another location in New York. So when you get here, you can learn a lot more by talking with the staff and volunteers here, who, by the way, are super friendly and incredibly knowledgeable, much more than I, about these items in the museum. And what better way to begin your journey than having a bomb dangling above your head as you enter? That's how you know you're gonna have a good time. Inside, you are greeted with a large collection of model airplanes along with some flight suits. So in general, even before you buy your tickets, there's a lot to see already. Oh, and by the way, some of these airplanes are actually used in air shows that the museum does once in a while, and you can even fly in one of them. So visit their website if you're interested in things like that. But here are some things I found interesting, like these planes, the AT-6s, but they were known by a few names. Now, I'm a bit more familiar with them because they were originally developed in the 1930s as basic trainers for the American military and became one of the more important training aircraft. In fact, many pilots in World War II got their first experience in flying on planes such as these. There is also one of these planes outside of the museum as you walk in, this yellow one right here. After the war, other countries used them as well, like Spain, Portugal, France, in combat roles as they were engaged fighting in their colonies. And I think even the United States used them as late as the war in Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken. I know they were used in the Korean War in the 1950s, but I think all the way up to the war in Vietnam. I mean, I know this information was probably on some of these information labels placed throughout the museum. However, for this visit, I tried avoiding reading any of them, other than maybe like one or two, for instance, once I got to the engines. But I did not want to do that, as I feel like that would be unfair to the museum or whoever put that information together, right? I mean, lots of time and research went into them, and here I would just come along, read them, and then pretend on YouTube that I know all of this. I feel it would simply be like a form of plagiarism. Next to them, there's mobile communication trailer. They were like portable air traffic control towers where you can use any open field as an airstrip and guide planes down. On the side of it, you can also learn the NATO phonetic alphabet, which was introduced in 1956 and is used in aviation today to make sure that no confusion over what letters you are giving over the radio or the phone. So next time you need to spell, let's say, your name over the phone and you are stressing out with finding the right words like A as in apple, just print this alphabet for yourself and you will be like a pro. Now you will be like N, like November, Y, like in Yankee, C as in Charlie. Eventually, it will come as second nature to you as well. There are various models of planes and ships like this one, the USS Hornet, which I'm guessing represents the Doolittle raid from 1942, where B-25 bombers, which you see here, took off from the USS Hornet and bombed for the first time in World War II Japanese cities. Oh, by the way, the museum has one B-25 bomber in their collection if you would like to see them. But this is a fascinating story, as even for these planes to take off from the aircraft carrier was unbelievably difficult thing to do, as these bombers require far more runway to take off, and they were just not meant to do so from aircraft carriers, and yet they pulled it off. Here we have the Intrepid aircraft carrier, which is a museum in New York City, and a place I would like to show you at one point. And the battleship USS Missouri. Now, USS simply stands for United States Ship, if you see that. So USS Missouri is a museum in Hawaii today, and is very famous because on its deck, the Japanese surrendered and World War II came to an end. But look at the details on all these models. It's incredibly nicely done. Nothing like my models at home. That's right, I also used to put them together like USS Missouri at one point. Oh, and next to it I have Graf Zeppelin, the only aircraft carrier produced by Nazi Germany in 1938. So my models do not stand a chance against these because, well, I never really had the time to put models together. So no time meant at the end of the day, I had no patience. But still, I was able to complete some of them in a pretty amateur way. There's even a depiction of a battle from World War I, and again, I was just fascinated with the amount of details and hard work that went into this. In fact, the trench system looks more realistic than in most movies. You can step into the briefing room before a mission, where you can even check out an old stove, which used coal. And next door is the ready room. So here you would be briefed and debriefed before and after missions. I even love the fact that you have a section dedicated to the Tuskegee fighter pilots. During World War II, over 1 million black men and women served the country, yet they faced enormous racism, segregation, obstacles, you name it. About 1,000 trained as pilots and had some of the best records in the war. In fact, a myth was born around them that they never lost a bomber they were escorting during the war. Although that is not true, they certainly had one of the best records of any escort fighter group. But we also can't forget the support crew, like the cooks even, the mechanics, the navigators. All these people came together to create a truly spectacular unit. And check out this film from 1945. It's narrated by Ronald Reagan, the future president. B-61 nuclear bomb. I would just be careful not to trip over that. Oh my, and look at this beauty. This is definitely the Douglas C-47, which was a military transport airplane. And this I am very confident about because they were used during the Berlin airlift, a topic I teach on a regular basis. If you do not know what the Berlin airlift was, no worries, I got you covered, but in a future video, as I already have a plan for that. Second chance. Many pilots were, and still are, attached to their planes, and hence they named them, and have nose art, like you see here. You see this more often in wartime. You can also view some engines from up close, like this one, which was in the plane B29 Super Fortress, an American heavy bomber, which had 4 of these engines. And here, I had to look up some facts about it, like the fact that it produced 2,800 horsepower. And remember, there are 4 of these engines on the plane. So, incredible plane and a lot of power. It was actually the B-29s that dropped nuclear weapons on Japan, ending World War II. In fact, some of these stories you can read on numerous newspapers that are also on display here. You get a glimpse into a kitchen. Ooh, that in the back looks like a GE refrigerator. Toast, pork chops, mashed potatoes, peas, milk. Honestly, not a bad meal. As the calendar in the back, it says August 1943, by which point there was already food rationing, so certainly not a bad meal. There's even a display to remember the war effort of women who worked in shipyards and factories like the one that used to be here, the Republic Aviation. Many women worked here and contributed to the war effort. Here's a model showing the Republic Aviation, where we stand today. And they produced many airplanes during World War II and after. In fact, here they produced the A-10 Thunderbolt. You see the plane right here. You do not really want to mess with this plane. It's funny how someone decided to put a Volkswagen Beetle, like a 1960s hippie car, next to this weapon of war model. That's silly. Oh, come on. I work hard. I'm allowed to be a big baby once in a while and have some fun. There's even a flight simulator here. That is something I would like to try in the future. I'm guessing I would crash before even taking off, but still, it looks like it's worth it. Now let me show you one of the coolest things. You can get inside one of these World War II bombers and even sit in a cockpit and pretend you're a pilot. And I'll be honest, it's a cool experience. If you really sit in these seats and just focus on the instruments and try to trick your brain you are up in the sky, it's a funny feeling and experience. But get below the panel of instruments and you can even access the nose gunner's positions. Now this really gives you a sense of claustrophobia. My respect to those who had to do this. You can finish your walk by visiting the gift shop, which by the way has a lot of cool things. And you can pick up one of these jackets here. And then as you put the jacket on, you can stand in front of the P-51 Mustang. And now you will get in the spirit of the Top Gun movie. As in the last scene, Tom Cruise is flying away with Jennifer Connelly in a P-51. Take out your phone and start blasting the Top Gun soundtrack, which by the way, I still do once in a while, the original one from 1986, and you will certainly have a blast. But again, there's just so much more to see here, even the small things, like a black box or the flight recorder, which, by the way, all of them are orange, so that they will be easier to locate in the crash site. I mean, come on, even the garbage cans look like guard towers. I do not know if this was done intentionally or not, but it certainly blends in with everything else around here. You can also ask for assistance and walk outside of the hangar and see some of the planes and cars which are parked outside. But like I said, this is not a video of a detailed tour or anything like that, but just hopefully to catch your interest in this place and just show you another location. But many things that you see inside are from World War II, and it just makes you appreciate the crew and the pilots of these planes. I mean, it had to take a lot of courage, and it had to be scary as heck, but they still did it. It's something very difficult to teach in a classroom unless you experience it yourself, or next best thing, you come and visit a place like this. In part, this is the reason I do this, not only because I like it, but also to learn something myself every single time I visit a museum like this, and hence be somewhat better in teaching my students. But if you really want to put yourself in the mood and have the time, about a mile, maybe a mile and a half away from the museum, there is the Long Island National Cemetery, where many World War II veterans are buried. National cemeteries are places where those who served in the military are buried along with their eligible family members. Of course, there are some rules, like for instance, if you were dishonorably discharged from the military, then I believe you cannot be buried here. Or in some cases, there are prisoners of war who are buried in national cemeteries, for example. So it's an interesting topic. However, this cemetery opened in 1936 as Long Island was in need of such a place as World War I veterans began to pass away. And the only other national cemetery for veterans was the Cypress Hill in Brooklyn, which was getting pretty filled up at that point. And hence, if you really want to put yourself in the mindset of World War II or the remembrance of veterans, you might want to consider ending your trip to the museum in a place like this, which is nearby. I hope you all enjoyed the video for this week, and I already have something special for next Sunday. But until we meet again, have a safe week. I'll see you soon.